Why does Dave Ramsey come out so strongly against these things? Because these blanket statements about all these insurance people and financial planners that are just out there to rip you off. You know, people do business with those that they like and they trust. People want to be around those that they like and they trust. Welcome, everybody, back to the Audacious Faith Podcast, episode 110. We've got a great subject for you today. 3 things that Dave Ramsey gets wrong. Now, I know as soon as I bring that up, oh my goodness, the hairs on the back of some of your necks just went straight up because I know how it is. You're not going to pick on Dave Ramsey. I mean, for some people, let me clarify right off the start. All right, there's a lot of things that Dave Ramsey teaches that I think are awesome. Great principles, a lot of Christians, believers, they've all gone through the teachings, and a lot of it is good. In fact, a good majority of it is good. However, there's one thing we got to remember, all right? Just because Dave Ramsey said it doesn't mean it's in red letters in the Bible. Okay, so we've got to kind of get that in context. So now that I've got you on the defensive, okay, let me just say that I have a lot of respect for a lot of the things that he's built. I have a lot of respect for teaching that he gives and help that he gives to people, such as getting out of debt. That's a very, very good thing, very important thing to get out of debt, because debt messes up your cash flow. All right, it makes it so that you don't have the money that you need on a monthly basis. In fact, if you can get out of debt, what that really does, it's like giving yourself a raise, a huge raise when you do that. It's amazing how much money gets going into debt. It's like a sinkhole. So I totally agree with that and totally agree with a lot of the teachings and the ways that he helps you to do it. However, there are 3 things that we're going to go over today that I really question. And I want to tell you that I think in these instances, depending on the situation, he might have these just a little bit wrong. Now, before I go any further, you're probably saying, who in the world are you to question Dave Ramsey? I mean, after all, you do a faith podcast, you're a pastor, you've done all that kind of thing. All right, that's real fine, wonderful. What do you know about this particular situation? Well, I will tell you that back in about 2011, God, through circumstances, led me also into finance and insurance and investments and back in retirement planning and all those type of things. We founded a firm in 2011, and now we have over 200 licensed agents. Now you're saying, are you doing this podcast to try to advance and to try to drum up business? No, I'm doing it because I see this all the time, and I see people not being able to have their financial futures the way they want to, even with the Dave Ramsey program. Okay, they may be out of debt, but they're not necessarily building a secure future and a prosperous future for their family. So I want to talk about these 3 key components, which I've heard him go over and over again, and sometimes I find it a little bit disagreeable. Okay, so are you ready? Are you ready? All right, take some notes. And you can feel free to disagree with me and side with Dave Ramsey on this if you like when you're done. But it's not wrong to share the opinion, correct? All right, number 1, the first thing that I think that Dave Ramsey gets wrong is the teaching of term only and it being the least expensive option. Now, let me just say right off the bat that term insurance has a great use. And here are some of the uses that you can do with term insurance. You can get more insurance at a lesser cost. And especially if you don't have the money in the budget to be able to get that coverage, then you're going to want to use term insurance. In fact, much of the time when we help people get their families set up, we put term insurance as part of it because that way we can get them more coverage early, which is when they're going to need it, and keep the costs down while still setting up something permanent so that they're also going to have coverage later, okay? So is term insurance always the least expensive option? And the answer to that is not necessarily. Now let me explain why. Okay, first of all, some people will try to get the cheapest price just to be able to say they're covered. So they'll get a 10-year term, And as they get that 10-year term, the price is very, very low. The only problem is the chances of you actually dying in that 10 years, that's why it's so low. Okay? So you're basically treating it like car insurance. It's just kind of there in case the worst happens. All right? But the problem is 10 years goes down the line, you didn't die, and now what are you going to do? Now it's going to be more expensive. Or maybe you even get a 20-year or a 30-year. You're 20-something years old, you're 30-something years old, and now let's say it's 60 years of age, all of a sudden you have no life insurance. The cost is going to be way up, and here's the other danger. Your health situation may have changed. And because your health situation may have changed, and now the only way to have insurance is either to pay a sky-high rate, which at the aged out part of that insurance policy, or you're not going to have it at all because you're not going to be able to qualify for a new policy, or your health rating is going to be so bad because of the health changes that have taken place. So what ends up usually happening with term insurance alone is the overwhelming majority of term insurance never pays out. You've got to understand that going in. And it's because people have aged out of it and they don't have it by the time it would actually be necessary. Now, Dave Ramsey will come along and say, well, it doesn't matter because when you get older, you're not going to need it anymore anyways because you'll have all this money saved up. And I'm going to get to that in the third point, okay? The other situation is this. He says that things like permanent insurance, whole life, index universal life, things like that are just way too expensive and way over the cost. Well, sometimes that's true. In fact, a lot of times that's true. I do very little what you would consider whole life insurance. However, I'll do a lot of index universal life insurance. Okay, whole life tends to be really inflated with a lot of companies, and it's not necessarily that great. But index universal life is different. Now, he'll say, oh, no, it's a ripoff. It's really too expensive and all that. That depends on who sets it up for you. It really does. Like in anything else, if you go to buy a car somewhere, you're going to get a great deal if you have a good salesman and you have a good dealership, and you're going to get ripped off if you have somebody that's unethical and has those type of practices. So you want to find somebody that you trust, because when you find someone who you trust who's going to do the best thing for you, the client, you'll find that the cost of insurance is really pretty much the same, and the rest of it is going into savings and it's going to build. All right? You're not actually paying more. In fact, in the long run, because the price stays pretty much even throughout the time, by the time you get later in life, if you were renewing term insurance and continuing to try to do that, your term insurance costs would actually be higher, and your insurance costs doing an index universal life, if it's set up right, okay, with all the benefits, will actually be less of a cost of insurance down the run, and it will actually pay out to you or your family when you need it. Here's another reason why a permanent type of insurance coverage is something that you want to have, not just term only. And the reason for that is because it gives you financial flexibility. You can actually build your own bank with it. There are times when you can easily get a loan off of it without having to qualify because your policy is the collateral. You can have your money within 1 week. You can have an effective interest rate quite often of only like 1%. And as you pay it back, if you choose to do so, you can use your normal monthly contributions and premium payments to do that and not affect your cash flow whatsoever. This is what the wealthier people have been doing for decades and decades and decades. We have to understand that financial wealth, either having it or not having it, leaves clues, and there's certain habits that people do. And the people that don't have that flexibility tend to be those who just pay off credit cards and have term only. All right? So that's number one. Agree or disagree? That's fine. I'm giving you the information. No problem. Number two, the second thing that I think he gets wrong is when he says you won't need life insurance in your retirement. All right? Because by then, you're going to have all this money stored up, and it's going to be just working for you, and there won't be any need for that. Well, first of all, You don't know that. All right? You don't know that. How many people are today facing retirement and don't have anywhere near enough money saved up in the bank? Plus, you have to understand this. There are variables beyond our control that we don't know, that even if we have a bunch of money, it might suck it up, like health things that we're not expecting, not being able to work all of a sudden as we are getting older because of some type of health crisis, not having the adequate coverage to cover that, our income changing, a loss of a job, having to take care of a loved one, all the varying factors that are there. Okay, so we don't know that. And when people don't have something put aside and they're supposed to shove all this aside, a lot of times it doesn't actually happen, or nowhere near to the level we want. And plus, there's another factor, inflation. Okay, the money that you think you're going to earn and have for the future may be worth much less, than what it's worth right now. People right now are already seeing that with inflation and how expensive things are. All right? For example, when I was young, paying $100,000 for a house was almost unheard of. All right, now it's an outhouse here in California. You're lucky to even get that, okay? You can't find anything for $100,000. You just can't. So things change, and money isn't necessarily worth what it is now, all right? And then the third thing is, as we tie it into it, if you could have the coverage still in place and be leaving $500,000 to $1 million or $2 million or $3 million to your family and leave a legacy behind, why would you just throw that away? Why would you not have that? All right. I can remember when my mom passed away, and she didn't have a lot. She had about a $250,000 death benefit on a policy, which is not huge. But I tell you, it was like her last gift to me. And it was very, very helpful, especially at a time when I was trying to get our family, somewhere and on our feet. So why would you not? I mean, some people will say, well, nothing was left to me, and so I'm not going to do it and let everybody. Well, just because nothing was left to you, think of how much more wonderful and easier it would have been for you if it was. Okay, so why not do that for your family and leave that legacy? And you may say, well, I don't really have family or anyone I want to leave it to. Well, are there causes? Are there organizations? Do you have a church? Do you have a Christian ministry or some other humanitarian cause that you really care about and would like to leave money to? Why would you have something expire and not have that option of being able to do that? All right, and now the third and final thing that I disagree with him on, that I think Dave Ramsey gets wrong, is you would be better off just investing the difference. All right, well, that might be true. That might be true, and a combination of things. First of all, you're a very, very good investor. And then the second thing, which would be very important, you get really, really lucky. All right, and you have results that are beyond your control. Now, by the way, you can invest and you can try the market and you can use these different strategies and go after aggressive investments. Nothing wrong with that if you're younger and you want to be able to do that. But many financial planners that I know, very good financial planners that I know, will admit that what you should do is the best strategy is to get an insurance-based, secure type of things set for your family first, so that you have that. And then with the extra money that you have, then you can go after some aggressive investments, okay? But not put all your eggs in these investment things. And there's some reasons why. Number one, market risk, okay? Everything is high right now. Everything is high right now. And so when everything is high, there's a huge risk of losing a lot of money, because things that go up come down. That's just the way that it is. And people lose money in the market. And every time you do, it cuts down what you have. And then the percentage of gains, it takes more of a percentage to even get it back. Let me give you an example. If you have $100 and you take a 50% cut, all right, You lose 50%. What do you have left? You have $50. All right. Now, if you get a 50% gain, what do you have? A lot of people say, hey, I'm back to my $100. But no, you're not, because you're now getting a 50% gain on your $50, which puts you at 75. So you have to understand that every time you're losing money in the market, it's taking a lot more to get back up. All right. Warren Buffett, one of the best investors there, he says, always make money. His second rule, never lose money. His third rule, don't forget rules 1 and 2. All right, this is very, very important. You always want to be in a situation where you're making and you're not losing. And in some of these insurance index type policies, you have a guaranteed floor where you can't lose money on your cash account. And you can get a very, very good gain. Okay, and be constantly going up and locking in those gains as you go. So market risk is huge. Another thing that's huge is no matter how well you do in your investments, most of those investments are going to be taxed either presently, or if they're tax deferred, they're going to be taxed in the future, like normal income. And so you could very well be paying anywhere between 20 to 35% on those amounts of money that you actually have. Things that are tied to life insurance, IRS code 7702, we have to understand this. They go in, they're after tax dollars, and as you access it and everything, you are not taxed. In fact, even on the gains, as long as it's an insurance policy and it's leveraging off of an active insurance future death benefit policy, there is no tax anymore. And so that makes your money worth much, much more. Another thing is many of your investments that you would put money in, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, those types of things, they have restrictions. There's certain times that you have to wait to be able to access them. If you access them early, you have to pay it back. If you don't pay it back, you're going to not only pay the tax, but you're also going to pay a 10% penalty. Okay, there's also required minimum distributions at certain ages at age 72 and a half. All right, so there's different things that happen, and it's not as accessible and not as flexible by any means as what you can do in some of these insurance-based products. All right. So should you have 401ks and things like that if your job offers it and everything? Sure. Do they give you a match? Fine. Take the match up to the point that it's going to be there. It's free money. But don't put all your eggs in that basket and get so set on the fact that, no, I would never put anything into anything that's tied to insurance. It's the most secure and tax-free and most accessible and flexible type of investment that you can actually have. All right? So why does Dave Ramsey come out so strongly against these things? Well, it's his trademark. I don't know. I can't claim to know the person's heart. I believe he means well. He's built a huge empire. Who am I to say anything, right? But I thought you should know these particular points, because these blanket statements about all these insurance people and financial planners that are just out there to rip you off, some of them are, but a lot of them are not. And they do a very, very good job for you. You know, people do business with those that they like and they trust. People want to be around, whether it's business or not, those that they like and they trust. So if you're going to do something like this when it comes to your money, make sure that it's with people that not only you like, but people that have great character and people you can trust. Because if that's the case and they know what they're doing, they'll do right for you. All right, I hope that you've been blessed. If you have more questions on this, by the way, you can reach out to me at jgodthiersenior@gmail.com. I'd be more than willing to help you with any of this or direct you to someone else that can do that for you. And at the same time, any other comments that, that even have nothing to do with this, maybe you disagree, I want to hear it. Okay, so send it to my email or also on jgodthiersenior on Instagram.com or on Facebook as well. Or you can follow us as well and comment on the Audacious Faith Podcast Instagram page. That's fine. Put us on blast. It's okay. Put it out there. Let's talk about it and have a discussion. This has been episode 110. Make sure you share this with others and subscribe to the podcast. We'll see you next time. God bless you.